Good morning. I'm taking the motorcycles for a warm up because due to the slight injury, I haven't been able to ride for about a week or so. And if the motorcycles sit too long, we end up not liking that. So this morning, I wanted to talk about death, particularly in, I would say, the Nigerian. I think some aspects may apply to other sub-Saharan cultures, but I will talk predominantly of my experience with that. So I'm at the point in life, I'm a Gen X cohort, so to speak. Those born approximately between 1976, 77, and 1966, give or take a few years. Anyway, a lot of my aunts and uncles and people of the the silent generation, so people who are around their late 70s, early to mid 80s, have been passing away, have been dying. And so I have a lot of cousins that have lost their parents over the last decade or so and continue to do so. And typically that generation of Nigerian elders, if they're not in Nigeria already, might be in the diaspora, prefer to be buried in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, I can't think of a single one of my aunts and uncles that weren't transported back to Nigeria for burial. Now, there's a particular reason for this. This isn't an absolute rule, of course, for every elder. Part of the reason is that, at least on my father's side of the family, there's a family crypt. Okay, so that is where really I think anybody who is in the family, uh, who has my surname, or even a spouse of anybody who marries into the family, a child or a descendant of that family can be buried in that crypt. So that's a very big reason. But still, in general, I've had family friends pass away and their parents, they end up transporting their parents back to Nigeria for burial. This was particularly the case when I was younger. I noticed that a lot. Um, the challenging, of course, is anybody who's ever had to bury a parent or an elder from the diaspora to Nigeria is particularly expensive, especially for those of us far flung in the diaspora, like in the United States. I mean, it used to cost. This was a while ago. I would say 15, 20 years ago. Could be wrong, but I remember it costing around 10,000 US just to transport the body back via plane. And I'd like to think that because of the pandemic, where you couldn't even do that if you had the money, they insisted on cremation of the body for health reasons. I think it began to change, at least in my awareness, a lot of uh, Nigerians in the diaspora is thinking that, hey, because not only because of expense, but practicality, consider cremating the body and then transporting it to Nigeria. The The alternative, of course, is that if you can't afford to do that, you'll have to bury your parent or elder in the diaspora area where they reside. Because I know, first of all, burial is expensive, period. It's expensive. Cremation is generally cheaper. Of course, depending on your ethnicity in Nigeria, your religion, there are some requirements. I know for Muslims, there's the time factor. So there's a time limit at which, the body needs to be uh, interned. But anyway, for someone who, myself, has lost a child, just that process is really a reminder of how short life is. You hear that all the time, life is short, to the point that it's almost a cliche, but it's true. And so in this particular time frame where a lot of my aunts and uncles are dying, my parents are still alive. They're in their early mid 80s, but I know that any day, literally, I could get a phone call, and then it's our turn, so to speak, myself and my siblings, to see to the burial of our parents. And so one of the things that we have done is, probably starting from about 5 years back, start really having serious conversations about managing that process, finding out where their wills are, and finding out from them what they desire, and considering what is practical. Okay, at this point, I would usually go left and take a nice run. Oops, I spelled the bike again. Ah, how embarrassing. There's a car behind me. As I was saying, at this point, I would go the opposite direction and take a nice longer ride. But since this is in the morning and I have work in about probably an hour and a half, I still have bike number 2 to take out. I'm going to take this little way back. Oh, that is a delicious, rocks piece of road. Let's just enjoy this and I'll continue the video. Haba. So we're starting to discuss those arrangements, and it's important that people do that because, as I told my siblings, my sisters haven't had to bury any elderly, either in-law or, of course, our parents, but my brother and I have both lost our father-in-law, so we've gone through that. I've had to bury, my youngest daughter, so we have closer insight to the process and the importance of thinking ahead of these things. And lastly, importance of spending time with your parents, regardless of whatever your relationship. And I'm not talking going out, oh, mommy, daddy, I love you. I'm not talking about any pretentious machinations. It may just be as simple as, depending on your relationship, just seeing to them, as little as seeing to them, looking in on them, making sure, having a chat or conversation. To the other spectrum, if your relationship is maybe more genial, or the dynamics are such that you can actually spend physical time with them, interact, go out, you should do that, because as I told my wife, before her father passed, I said, once these people are gone, they're gone, and whatever issues, reservations, whatever you may have, that's it. So take the time, say what you want to say, spend the time you want to spend, because before you know it, they're gone.